everybody, and welcome to the Council of Fire, the House of Dragon after show brought to you by Agents of Fandom. I am your host, TJ, aka Fat Thor, and I am joined by Zen and Caesar from Listen 3000. And we just finished episode 1 of House of the Dragon season 2. And whoa, golly, what an episode it was, folks. What an episode. So before we get started, my beautiful co-host Zen and Caesar, how y'all doing today?
Good, man. Good. Just excited to get back into Dragon Time.
For sure. Same here, man. That episode brought me right back. We here. We're here.
We're here, baby. We're back in Westeros. We're back in King's Landing, Dragonstone. We even get to go back to Winterfell in this episode. We're going all over the place. But before we get into some of the nitty-gritty of this episode, I want to get you guys' overall thoughts on this episode. Overall thoughts on episode 1. How did you guys feel about it? And how did you feel it stacks as a first episode, as like a premiere for the season? Zen, I'll throw it off to you first.
Man, it was what a way to start the season, man. It was a very sad episode for sure, because we're dealing with the events of the last season. What happened at the end of last season with Lucerys? Am I saying that right? Lucerys?
Mm-hmm. Luke Lucerys.
Yeah. So we got a lot of that. We got a lot of. I feel like it was kind of catching us up and getting us back in the groove of things with the show. So yeah, I thought it was a great episode so far. And that cliffhanger, man, because I felt like it started a little slow, but it kind of gradually, like every couple minutes, something was getting up until we get to the end, and it was like, yo, all right, we're really back. We're really back. So I thought it was a great first episode for sure.
Absolutely. C's, what'd you think?
I'm be honest, I feel like it was 10 out of 10. Maybe I recently was watching the last season to catch me up, so I'm right here, like
you're all in it.
Yeah, like I'm so prepared for all the because I feel you with the not that it was slow, but like I felt like it was a lot of dialogue and just
I didn't mean it in a bad way. It was just like I felt like it was just catching us back up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
no, 100%. I agree. But I loved it. Like I was just, man, I was so into every time we got into a new scene. I was just like, all right, what we doing? What we doing? What we doing next? So yeah, once we got to the end, like it was a sad episode even for that. Like even though craziness for the story, but wow.
Yeah, I 100% agree, and I think you guys hit it on the head. Like the sense of sadness and I don't know what's the right word. I guess tension throughout the entire episode. It just like kept me on my seat, and it's like that meme that you guys see when dude's sitting back in the chair. It's like, oh, well, gotta lock in right now. Like you said, every single scene, I'm like, all right, what's going on? Where are we at? But I, again, completely agree with you guys. I loved this first episode. I thought it was a great way to kick this season off. And I do agree with you guys as well, where some people might take that as a criticism. At least I don't, and I know you guys don't either. We don't mean it as a criticism, but it does kind of start off, I don't want to say slow, but like you said, we have to get us back into the world. It's been like, what, a year, maybe even more since the last 2 years. Yeah, since last season. So it's like, okay, we got to remind y'all what happened. Why are these people pissed, right? Like, what's going on? So I can't really knock it for that. And even if you do feel that the first half of this episode is slow, the way it ends off has to, you know what I mean? Like that is not slow for sure. And we are going to get all into that. But first, let's start at the beginning. One of the things I want to talk about with you guys, in the beginning of this episode, is we have a new opening sequence, which I absolutely loved, and then we also start off this episode in a familiar place, actually, instead of someplace new. And like we said, we start off in Winterfell. So what do you guys think of this new intro? Do you guys think it means anything that they changed the introduction? And what was it like just to be back in Winterfell? C's, I'll throw it to you first this time.
Man. I'm too excited about this show because that's a loaded question to me. Like, and I'm not even for the show. Okay, so for the intro, honestly, you guys got to notice that more than me. I saw after when you guys texted like, "Oh, the new intro is fire," and I was kind of watching like a recap after and noticed that they're showing probably where the story is going to lead, like it does, like it did on the Game of Thrones one too. So I feel like it does mean something, but I didn't get enough of a chance to like dive into it to personally know. But I am going to go back and find out some stuff. But with coming back to Winterfell, I just thought it was so dope the way that they I don't know, the way that there was a bunch of connections to being fans of Game of Thrones while still having it in this. Like it was just super cool. And I once he said the why you think we built the wall, I was like, all right, we bet we
we really in it now.
Death could have meant, I don't know. I'm thinking too much. I'm like, is White Walkers around? Did somebody see something? I don't know.
Bro,
I was excited to be back.
Once that happened, it made me think back to our last episode with Thor asking a question about like, do you think it's gonna tie some things together with the prophecy and the White Walkers and all that stuff? And
yes, because why
that
you
thing,
say
he
that?
was like,
what you mean?
yeah, right.
What's
I'm
that
like,
mean?
once he said what's behind the wall, and the camera panned to him, and he looked at the cameras like, death. And I'm like,
Yeah.
what you mean? Have you seen it? Do you know what's over
Yeah,
there?
what do you know, Kragan? I think I think it was both like for the characters and us as the audience. Because again, like we know what's in the darkness, right? But like
Yeah.
Lucerys and that, it's like we know, but they don't know, right? So I think that was like kind of like a little wink at us at the audience. But I mean, just the nerd in me, the nerd that loves Game of Thrones, just like being back in Winterfell, like where it all began. It just was, I thought, the perfect way to open this episode. And another, like, this is like super nerdy, but you guys are music dudes, so you'll appreciate this. Something else I really loved that's just super subtle, and please forgive me, but I forget the composer's name, but the composer who does Game of Thrones and House of the Dragon. I saw an interview with him a while ago where he talks about in the first couple seasons of Game of Thrones, he deliberately didn't use any piano, and it was all strings, so like violins, cellos, things of that nature, to kind of really set that tone. And it's not until we get to a certain story beat where we start hearing piano music.
Wow, I love that.
And so I noticed when we get to Winterfell in this first scene, it opens up with that kind of iconic string music, like the very slow, methodical game. I think I want to say it's a song from the first season of House of the Dragon, actually. But my point being, I felt like that was very intentional to give us, again, that feeling of we're fucking back, baby, right? Like we are back. We're back in Game of Thrones. You all remember this? Y'all remember Winterfell? You know how you love Jon Snow? Well, here we are. So I thought that was super cool. And again, very nerdy detail. But Winterfell is actually very quick, which I was very surprised of how quickly we kind of were in and out of Winterfell. And we'll get into some of that later, or maybe in some future episodes if we see some more Winterfell. But we get to Dragonstone, and we kind of see the fallout, like we talked about in the beginning of this episode, the fallout of last season, of Lucerys' death, how everyone is handling that. And we find that Rhaenyra she's just off and gone. And we see Daemon and Rhaenys actually have a very interesting conversation that I wanted to ask you guys about. And they talk about Rhaenyra just leaving Dragonstone. And something I really thought was a good line from Daemon. He says something along the lines of like, the mother grieves, but the queen abandons her duties. So I wanted to get your guys' thoughts on this. Again, there's a lot that kind of happens in this scene, and unfortunately we can't go through all of it. But just the main point of like, how do you guys feel about the situation that the Black Council is in right now, and Rhaenyra's response to what is going on? Or Zen, I'll throw it off to you.
To me, it low key kind of felt like they were in disarray a little bit. Like it felt like they were kind of all over the place. Like you had Rhaenyra, she's out trying to grieve and figure stuff out with her son, and then you got Daemon kind of doing what he wants, and then you just kind of got everybody else kind of looking for some type of leadership. And like I think that conversation was interesting just because Rhaenys has went through that same thing with losing both her kids. You know what I mean? So like I think it's her kind of like in a sense speaking for Rhaenyra where she can't speak for herself at this point because she's obviously going through what she's going through, and kind of like trying to like get through to Daemon like, hey yo, like I understand what's going on, but like this is why she's not here. This is, you know what I mean? Like, and you can see he kind of like doesn't really, I don't want to say doesn't understand, but like he's not
Don't
really
relate
like
at all.
he don't relate. No, he doesn't, and he's like. He's ready for war. You know what I mean? Like that's what he's talking about. Like, yo, we gotta pull up on him. We gotta go get him. Like, what we doing? You know what I mean? So
And
I thought it was very interesting. Yeah.
I feel like that's a theme of Daemon as well. Like that's like part of his character where it's like he cares, but he doesn't care, right? Like when I forget her name, Bela, right? His first wife, when she died, it was like he cared kind of, but it was like, okay, like the next day it's like, all right, back to business. You know what I mean? It's like war is coming, there's shit to do. So Caesar, what did you think about this and like the whole, how, like Zen said, the kind of disarray of the Black Council?
I don't know. Zen kind of said it perfectly because it was just yeah, you can clearly see it's been only been a couple days. Like if a day, right? Like I don't even know, but it's recent. And man, I don't know, like the empath in me, like I just felt for Rhaenyra's situation so bad. But once Daemon said that exact line, I'm glad you said that line that about the mother,
mother slash queen,
like that line was crazy in the scene, but her response to it was just as powerful to me. The way that she was able to get him to at least not maybe understand, but at least be like, all right, I'll back off a little bit. All right, cool. At least for this conversation. And honestly, just as a fan of the show, I thought it was a great scene. But yeah, I don't really have much. I feel like Zen kind of covered everything.
Zen cooked that for sure. And I really like too how, like you said, how Rhaenys is kind of speaking for Rhaenyra in this scene. I think you really hit it on the head with that, especially when she points out the fact that, like, you know, most people in this position, especially with power, would immediately go for vengeance. And it's like Rhaenyra is taking the time, like, yeah, she may be grieving and going through some stuff, but at least she's not acting on impulse. And I think that's a very great point, and something that we see is a very common theme with the rulers of Westeros, whether it be Maegor, you know, the Mad King, Viserys even. But then we flash forward and then we get the kind of Green Council side of all this. So again, we see everyone in Dragonstone, what they're doing, and then we get to see what's going on with the Green Council over in King's Landing. And there's a lot going on. There is a lot going on in the Green Council. But I want to first start off with King Aegon and kind of just his whole demeanor of being king. And we get him talking with his wife Helena, which she has a crazy foreshadow that we see later on in this. But before we get to some more of the details, I want to get you guys' thought, and this kind of goes through the whole episode. But again, King Aegon, sorry, I almost said Aemon. And again, his just kind of aloof nature of being king and his kind of response to, again, the situation that he finds himself in after all of this. Caesar, what'd you think of King Aegon the second?
I'm not gonna lie, y'all. I was really intrigued with his character. Like, I don't know. Like, ready when you see him at first with his wife and sister, nasty. But, but when you see that scene, like, you already, the first reaction that I feel like most of us got is like, all right, we see where this is going. The type of person he is, the way he's gonna be. We've seen this before, especially with the Targaryens. Like, it can get a little, you know what I mean? So you kind of assume a certain way of him, which I still feel a little suspect. But then when you kind of fast forward into the scene where you know, kind of the civilians in the town come and are asking for help, right? He's taken the whole kind of the good cop side. Like, he's in a whole different, I don't even know, perspective, or just like a different side of his character was shown. And that was interesting to me because I'm like, that might come into play. I don't really know.
Need sheep? I got sheep. Let's do it. I got you, bro.
And then the next two, he's like, no, we're gonna help you too. Like, I'm like, oh, you really care a bit, even if it's for politics. It's something that I wasn't expecting based off of the way that he came off. So I don't know. I'm intrigued. I don't know where that's gonna go with this character being kind of trying to be good, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, it's very interesting how they're kind of playing his personality. Zen, what'd you think about, like I said, King Aegon and just his whole kind of, again, demeanor this entire episode?
You muted.
I think you're muted.
Muted.
Oh, okay, my bad. Now, one thing I will say about just getting to the Greens in general, the feeling over there just felt different. It just felt like a little bit more lighthearted. It felt like a little less tension, a little less. Even like with Aegon, it felt like he was joking a little bit. Some of the scenes he had, you know what I mean? Like, he just didn't. It didn't seem obviously as serious and as crazy as the blacks felt on their side of things. And I thought it was just like you said, it was interesting. You go in the little bit that we know of Aegon from season 1, and then we get a little bit here. You get a different side of him, you know what I mean? And I thought that was interesting as well. Like you said, it might come into play when we have to hear from the people and how they feel about him, it might be different than you would expect. You know what I mean? So,
Ooh, that's a good point, Zen. Like bringing,
yeah.
the perspective of the people of King's Landing. I never really considered that, but I really like that.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah.
yeah,
So I thought, yeah.
oh, sorry,
No,
go ahead, go ahead.
no. You good?
I was just gonna say I completely agree. I mean, again, y'all cooked it on that, but I thought it was it's just very interesting because it does seem like he did want to help those people. Like he genuinely just was like, yeah, why not? Like, why can't? And Otto's like, whoa, dude, like you got to hold up here. Everyone's gonna want sheep, dude. What are you doing? But I also think it's interesting too. Like we said, he's kind of aloof. I think, at least in my mind, he thinks like this is not serious at all. Like it's like, yeah, we accidentally killed my little cousin, but whatever, shit happens. We got dragons, we're fine. Like whatever, we have Vagar, and like I think he even basically says that, like
He did.
whatever, we got Vagar, so whatever. And I mean, that's definitely going to bite him in the ass for sure. Because we talked about it last episode on our recap. The Black Council has more dragons as it stands, and I mean, yeah, Vagar's the biggest, but it's still 3-on-1 at this point. So I think he's getting a little big for his britches. But something else that we have to talk about. We were texting about this during the episode. Christian Cole and Allison. Oh, dudes, this one didn't take me for a loop. I expected it, but I absolutely hate it.
Me too.
I hate it. I hate everything about it.
You kind of can't. You gotta. He's just a simp. It is.
Yeah, literally the king simp, dude. He's a slut for the throne. If you're on the throne or close to it, Cole's throwing it out easily. But so what did you guys, I mean, obviously, we can kind of get what we think about it by our jokes, but what did you guys think of, like, not just like the funniness of them kind of being together, but he's pretty high up in the Queen's Guard, and he has been around through all of this drama. We see that later on when he's talking to Aemon, and he's like, yo, take it easy on your mom, right? Like defending her and stuff. So I think like his role is very interesting in this series. So I want to get your guys' thoughts. Just what's, again, not necessarily their relationship, but just what game is this dude playing? Like you said, do you think he's really just King Simp and he's just, falling for everyone? Or you think he's a little bit more methodical with it and kind of playing a bigger chess game?
Honestly, I'll just go because more, Thor. So maybe you got some inside, but if I'm just going off of my reaction watching it, and the last season as well, he's just an emotional dude. He's just wherever his heart is following, he's just gonna go there. And I feel like because of that, though, he is a bigger wild card than we're thinking. Like
well, remember last season he killed homeboy Beesworth, like just fucking boom, smashed his head. And everyone just like, okay.
Honestly, if you want to go back to it, he didn't even say nothing too crazy. He was like, bro, you got a situation, I got a situation, we're good. He's like,
shut up.
So
all right, R.I.P. my man's Beesworth.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, I just think he's a liability, but can also be useful because of that. I don't know. Like he's gonna play a huge part, I think, because of that.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. Like you said, that like eagerness or whatever word you want to call it definitely puts him more in, like, at least in my opinion, the liability category than asset. But Zen, what do you think about the boy Christian Cole?
Man, I think he's just playing whatever cards he's dealt at the time, man. I also do feel like their relationship with Allison, it wasn't surprising to me. And also, like, I feel like he might feel like indebted. I don't know. He might feel like a debt to her, like as far as like how he was about to, unalive himself the last season, and she kind of stepped in and was like, "Yo, no, I want you to be a part of what we got going on," type time. So in a sense, he might feel like she saved him in a sense. You know what I mean? And then you add that to like now this different other aspect of their relationship, and his hatred for Rhaenyra. It's just like you said. It's like compounding things that make him this wild card. You know what I mean? Like I agree with all of that. So I think he's definitely going to be interesting this season, as he always is. And he's gonna say some crazy stuff about Rhaenyra like he always does, because he kind of threw some shots at her during this episode as well. So
he caught her
what he does.
Dude,
Yeah,
he
it caught
hates
on the
her,
web.
man. He is so salty. But I love that point, Zen. I never even really thought of that, or I really remembered that. But like you said, Allison kind of saved his life, and I'm sure in his mind that's how he sees things. So not only is he just a simp, but probably does feel a sort of like loyalty to Allison based off of that. But oh, sorry, I'm getting mixed up with where I'm at. There's so much going on in this episode. That's what I was gonna say. The Helena, we gotta talk about Helena very quickly before we move on, because they drop a huge bomb on us in the early of this episode. So for people out there who have read the book, you probably caught this immediately as she said it. But for you guys who didn't read the book, did you guys even catch that at first when she said like I'm afraid of the rats? Like, what did you guys? Again, if
I
you're
did not.
watching this, I hope that you finish the episode. But obviously, a major plot device for later in the episode. So Zen, you said you didn't catch that, so that just completely went over your head on the rat thing.
Yeah, yeah.
Yo, I ain't gonna lie to you. I was trying to take notes. That's the only note I wrote down.
Well, we talked on the last time, or the
That's why.
recap episode. We
Yes.
talked about Helena and
I paid
about
attention to her on purpose. Anything
Yeah.
she's saying for the whole show, I'm like, what
she's freaky,
Okay.
man. You
Yeah.
gotta listen to what she's saying, because like again, last season we see that she was saying some really weird stuff that actually were kind of predictions, if you would, of what was going to happen. And we also talked about this concept of Targaryen dreamers, and how some Targaryens can almost see the future, or kind of visions of possible futures. And again, we get that in this episode with where she says, I'm afraid. They said, I'm not afraid of the dragons, I'm afraid of the rats. And then not only that, but I don't know if you guys caught this, but after, I think it might be right after that, or after the Allison Christian Cole thing we were just talking about, we actually get our first glimpse of Cheese in that scene. And he's in King's Land. They show him picking up rats as Allison and Cole are walking through.
Oh, I didn't realize it was him though. Yeah.
Yes. So
God, crazy. They're
and
fine.
like the thing that we talked about in the beginning of this episode, the whole sense of sadness and dread that kind of follows this entire episode, I thought the showrunners did such a great job with things like that, putting Cheese in the background. So like for me, that I read the book, I'm like, oh shit, you know what I mean? Like it really like excites me. But then not only that, but for people who haven't read the book, you can go back and watch that episode and you'll be like, oh shit, there he is, right? Like, and you'll catch those little Easter eggs. So I really love that. And I really thought that was such a great way to, again, just kind of add the tension and suspense that we feel in this first episode. But then after that, we get back to Dragonstone and we have the White Worm. I forget her actual name, but the like whisper lady from season 1. She makes an appearance. Daemon and the rest of the Black Council capture her, and something so they capture her, and then we also see Rhaenyra finds Lucerys's body, and we had that little quick line from Rhaenys earlier in the episode about how it's not real until she sees like the body, right? So again, just this whole kind of scene at Dragonstone with the White Worm coming back into play, this kind of master of whispers, and then the just heartbreaking scene of Rhaenyra, which I think that's kind of our first look at Rhaenyra in this episode.
Yeah, right. Besides, they might have gave it like a glimpse.
Yeah, maybe like a quick glimpse. Yeah,
that was the first interaction. I mean, that broke my heart.
Mm-hmm.
Very sad scene. Yeah. Just the walkover, and then you see her like look, because I remember the scene first started. I'm trying to see what she's trying to touch and stuff, and then I see exactly what it is. I'm like, oh man. Then you got what's her dragon? Thor, is it Cyrax?
Yeah, Cyrax.
Cyrax. You can see Cyrax grieving as well, and like at the end of that scene, he roars out, and I'm like, dang, like everybody's going through it right now.
Yeah, and I mean it totally makes sense where we go after this episode, because then we see Rhaenyra return to Dragonstone, and she's ready. She walks straight to that table and is like, "I want Aemon," and just leaves, just is out of here and is gone. And I just love that, because like we talked about in the last episode, the death of Lucerys, while the death of Viserys, the king, Rhaenyra's father, was kind of the start of the war where like everyone's making their plans. the death of Lucerys really is where the war, like the true war, kicks off. And I think that scene really exemplified that. It's like, okay, we are not messing around anymore. It is freaking time. And something else I wanted to get your guys' opinion on really quickly before we get to the big meat of this episode, the thing everyone's going to be talking about. I thought, yeah, the meat and cheese, if you would. A good one. That's a good one, Caesar. But I thought something about this whole kind of scene of Dragonstone and, like I said, Rhaenyra returning. We see Daemon, and like we said, everyone's kind of going through it, especially on the Black Council this episode. But we see Daemon is kind of throwing the blame at everybody. Like, he blames Rhaenys. He says, like, you had the chance to kill Aegon and you didn't. And then he blames Eric, and he's like, you could have killed Aegon, but you didn't. And then he blames the White Worm. Again, I forget her name, but he blames her, saying, like, you. So I thought, I don't really know what that means necessarily, but I just thought it was super, because I'm trying to think back. I feel like there had to have been something Daemon did that, like, he could have killed, right? It's like he's throwing blame everywhere else because he feels guilty for the opportunity that he did not take, right? But I couldn't remember if he, like I said, I couldn't remember if there was a specific scene. Maybe someone, listener watching this, leave us a comment, let me know if I missed something. But what did you guys think about this? And again, just kind of Daemon this entire episode.
That you just smoked that, Thor. Because I didn't even notice that reoccurrence, I guess. Like, he keep doing that, but that great point. He definitely it easily could be the way that you were thinking of it, but I guess on the other side, a flip side of it, like, it could be him just, that's his reaction to the death. Like,
True.
Is just emotionally, that could probably not be it, but I'm just wondering, because it's so random. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
It's not out of character, but it is out of character with how much he was doing it. You know what I mean? In one episode, like, so. I don't know. I just thought that was interesting. But one thing I wanted to point out about Daemon that I thought was crazy with the scene when she says, "I want Aemond," the way that they portrayed that scene. Like, I know y'all felt it the way that I did when.
Bro, it was in her eyes, bro. Her eyes. Bro, it was all in her eyes. Her
face, though. That's what got me. They are showing her walk into the room, and it pulls up to her, and they touch heads, right? And right when they lock in, he like, "Did you find everything? Whatever you were looking for?"
And she
didn't even need to say nothing. She said,
"Yeah."
And this walk, I'm like, "All right."
Yeah. And I think that's kind of really hits on what we're talking about with Daemon too, because I feel like that was his like, oh, can we go now? You know, are we ready? Like, can we go? And he's like, all right, bet. Like, you know, let's go.
Yes.
And I think that also could play into the, like I said, throwing the blame, because again, we talked about in the beginning of this episode, Daemon is a very off the cuff guy. He's very much, you know, I'm going to do what needs to be done, or what I think needs to be done. And so I think maybe throwing this blame around is like, because he's just kind of waiting in Dragonstone. We see almost this entire episode, now that I'm talking about it, I'm pretty sure he's in his armor the entire episode. Like, in the beginning, we see him with Rhaenys in his armor, and he's like, come on, we're going to King's Landing, right? And like, he's just like a dog that's locked up in the garage, right? He can't get out. He needs to get out. Exactly. He's muzzled right now. But Zen, I took it away a little bit on a tangent, but what do you think of Daemon and like this all this stuff that we're talking about with him?
I agree with what you said. Like, he's kind of been like antsy this whole episode. Like, just like, just give me the green light. Give me the green light to go. And like, I'm interested to see how Rhaenyra is going to react to what kind of went into play, because I don't want to jump too far ahead, but like, I don't know. I got a feeling that she might not be too happy with exactly what went down, or at least how it went down. You know what I mean? Because he just was like, even through his conversation with Rhaenys, it was just like, yo, like, what y'all doing? Like, we need to go attack them. You know what I mean? And even she was like, yo, you're not the king, bro. Like, you got to relax. Yeah. And like, once he got the kind of like green light from Rhaenyra, or whatever he perceived as a green light from Rhaenyra, like, he was just like, all right, we about to start scheming and plotting. We got the worm, she and the John, like, we about to go air up. Like, what, you know, who we could talk to, let's line something up. Like, you know what I mean? So
yeah. Who do I gotta call? Who do I gotta call? Who do I gotta send a Raven to?
Exactly.
But yeah, I mean, Aemon, like, or not Aemon, these names, dudes, like, these names are gonna kill me.
The whole episode, I was like, they're all the same.
Yeah, literally, and like 2 letters. When I'm writing articles about this stuff, it is off. It is so hard. But something I really wanted to hit on before we move on to, like I said, the big thing of the episode is something you guys brought up that I just really want to harp on is Emma Darcy. They are just so good. Like you said, that scene when they come into the room and declare, like, I want Aemon Targaryen, the look in their eye, I just cannot praise that performance enough. I mean, there's so many great performances. Matt, whatever Smith, right? That plays Daemon,
Yeah.
also incredible. But Emma Darcy,
None,
like
none of
they
them are
are
like
just.
Emma right now. And
What'd you
honestly,
say?
like, though, I was agreeing. Like, none of them are like Emma right now, though. That's not even disrespectfully. Like, it goes to show with what's happening in the show too. Like, our characters going through the most, so that makes sense. But they're really performing their life away. Like, it's like it's a lot.
They need to get an award for sure. If there's not an award for them at the end of this, that's robbery, absolute robbery. But okay, it's time. It's time, dude. It's time to get
I
in.
smell something cheesy.
Do you smell the cheese? Do you smell
Some
the
cheddar?
cheese through the screen
Some cheddar.
out there?
Yeah.
But so, like we said, so Rhaenyra calls for Aemon Targaryen's head. Daemon takes the green light. Finally, let's go. And then he comes back to King's Landing to put out his plan, a son for a son, like he says in the top of this episode. Something that I want to point out, though, before we get into the kind of real, great, not only crazy scene that this was, but I mean just like camera work and all that, it just all A1 in all aspects. But something I want to bring up is that we see Daemon talk to one of the gold cloaks of King's Landing, one of the King's Guard, right? And something I think is very important to remember, and this is something that they touch on in the books as well, is that Daemon, I almost said Aemon again. Daemon was the leader of the gold cloaks for a long time. He was the prince of the city, and the people, I don't want to say like the people loved him, but I mean he has relationships all throughout the people of King's Landing, especially with the gold cloaks. And that is something that the book kind of does not harp on, but definitely makes a major point about, is that he still has friends in the gold cloaks, and not just the gold cloaks, but there's even rumors and talks that he has friends and conspirators in the Green Council itself. So that's something that's very interesting to me from the books, and I'm really excited to see that kind of play out in the show. And I think we kind of see our first glimpse of that in this episode, where he can still get into King's Landing. He still has people loyal to him, and not necessarily Rhaenyra, but him specifically. So I think that's something very important that could be coming to play. But this is where we are first introduced to blood and cheese. And so cheese is a rat catcher from King's Landing, and he basically recruits them to, again, go kill Aemon Targaryen. He tells them, I need a son for a son, right? And another thing I want to point out before I throw it off to you guys and I quit my tangent is, so Cheese, like I said, is a rat catcher in King's Landing, and he mentions Maegor's tunnels. And so what that is, and they mentioned this in the original Game of Thrones as well, but Maegor is known as Maegor the Cruel and is one of the past Targaryen kings. And Maegor the Cruel was especially very paranoid, always thought that his enemies were after him and that people in his own council were conspiring against him. That's why he was named Maegor the Cruel, very famous for killing people that were on his council or just people he suspected. So what he did was he built a bunch of tunnels all throughout King's Landing, and especially what do they call it, the King's Fort, or like the building where the royals sleep, right? I'm forgetting the name right now. But so there's tunnels all throughout that place, and these tunnels were only known to Maegor. And so once he died, most of these tunnels were lost, and nobody knows about them, and they've only been discovered through accident or what have you. So tangent over, but that's why that's kind of important with Cheese, is because he knows how to get in and out of King's Landing without people seeing. That's how him and Blood are able to even get into King's Landing and then get into Helena's room through that secret passage. So that was a lot of nerd knowledge on you, but basic of all of this, what did you guys think of this first introduction of Blood and Cheese? I know this is kind of, even if you haven't read the books, this is something that people have been talking about. So again, were you guys kind of aware of this? Did you see this coming? What were your thoughts when Daemon got into King's Landing and started initiating this plan?
I can start this off.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
Zen, cooking,
One
man.
thing before I really get into the Blood and Cheese, one thing I do want to say, I seen somebody say this on Twitter and I thought it was pretty funny. They said like Damon is like Hoodie Mellow. Every time he pulls up with the cloak on, something crazy is about to happen.
Oh my
So
god,
like,
Dude, for real though.
that's facts.
Literally, if he's got that
Hoodie
cloak
Mellow
on,
is the greatest.
shit's going down.
Oh my god.
Facts. So
Yeah.
like him pulling up, like you already, so I know a little bit about the story of the Targaryens, so I knew this was coming. And like the whole episode, I'm just waiting, like, all right, when are they about to do this? When are we getting it? I'm looking
Yep.
at the timestamp, like, all right, we almost halfway through. They ain't even get to this yet. So when we get into it, I know it's coming. So once he gets to King's Landing and all that stuff's going off, I'm like, this is crazy. Like the fact that they even walked through the throne room and like Aegon's on the throne just chilling, like talking to his friends, and they walked right past him the whole time, like, and he didn't see him or say nothing. Like
They should have got him right then and there.
exactly. So I'm like, this is crazy. Like this whole scenario was wild. And obviously, like I knew a little bit about what was gonna happen, but like them get into Helena's room and then get into what they did to the child. I'm like, dang. Like I was feeling for her. I'm feeling for her. Like, yo, damn, this is really bad. Like this is a bad jump. Like you know what I mean the whole time. So I'm like, this is not gonna end well for like this is gonna turn everything up. Like if we thought what happened with Lucerys turned up, this is really gonna, because not only did she take their son out, they were in the throne, like they were in the castle, like you know what I mean, like they snuck in and snuck out and did what they had to do. Like it's crazy, man. The repercussions is gonna be wild.
Oof. Yeah, Caesar, what did you think about all this? Did you have any idea about the Blood and Cheese?
I did because it's y'all. But the way that, because of that, my experience of it was pretty dope. Like I wasn't expecting it, but I had that idea that it could come because of you guys from last episode. And Zen's been telling me about Blood and Cheese, but I didn't remember what it was. I just remember that concept, like two names really. So when the scene is starting to happen, you can hear the music start to like get more intense, and I'm like, yo, something is about to happen.
Dude, the score again, of this, yes,
especially in that scene. Wow, like but once you get Blood and Cheese start to move through the castle and the music gets more and more, I'm like, since I don't know what's going to happen, I'm like, whatever this is, it's going to be so bad. I don't know what it is yet. And when they finally got there, man, like I don't want to get too far ahead, but like,
we're about to get there. We're about to get
go
there.
ahead, take it away.
But I mean, I just again,
I was going to get into like when I was like, what is happening?
Dude.
Like, yeah, I'll shut up.
No, please keep going. I was just gonna say again, I just echo both of you guys. I just love this introduction of them going through King's Landing, and again going back to this kind of sense of sadness, dread. Really felt like when they entered the castle, it's like that's when that feeling really hit the peak. And I was like, oh, this is like, it was building. And it was like, oh, this is why I've been feeling nervous this entire episode. And I didn't know why. Right. And I just think they did such a great job again with like the score, the camera work, how the camera follows them through the tunnels. And it just, again, adds just such tension. And even as someone like me who has read the book and I know what's going to happen, the way that they shot it really made it suspenseful, even though I knew it was happening. And I just think that's such a great job. Like that's really a testament to how great that scene is, if you can surprise someone who knows what's coming, right? And it just, again, them going through the castle was so great. But then, like you said, Caesar, the big moment, so they catch Helena in her room with her kids, and a son for a son. I don't want to get too graphic here on the YouTubes and the Spotify.
Why do you have to find her? She didn't deserve all that.
Exactly, right? Wrong place, wrong time. So before I drop some nerd knowledge on you guys about this part and give you guys my thoughts, I want your guys' thoughts on this. Obviously, we just talked about if you guys were expecting this, but did you think they were really going to go there? Were you really, I mean, like just your reaction, the whole thing of that scene. Caesar, you were already on that train, so take it away.
I guess once they got into her room and you could tell that, oh, this is kind of the destination point, like based on the camera work and the way the music, like once it was like, oh, something is about to happen right now, I was like, I can't believe they're gonna do it, but they're gonna take one of her kids. I just knew then, but I didn't know how it was gonna happen. And then honestly, I might need y'all to explain how y'all felt. I might have an idea, but I'm not sure how what was happening by her choosing specifically. Do you know what I'm saying? Like that
Yeah.
kid.
So they give her a choice. They say, or not, they don't give her a choice, but they're looking for the son. And so they're like, which one? Because they're little kids and they both have long hair. So like, which one's the son? And she points to the, so I mean, that's another part of this question. What did you guys think of Helena's choice? Like her actually giving the kid up?
I'm so confused, bro. I don't really know, because the scene was so interesting, because once she chooses him and the dude is like, Blood is like, oh no, she's lying. And then Cheese's reaction was even almost confusing to me, because I'm like, why does he know she's telling the truth? Like, it was almost like something unspoken, like some unspoken conversation they had. And I was like, I don't know if this means something for the future, or if that's just like the intensity of the scene was why it feels so confusing. You know what I mean?
Like disjointed.
Yeah, disjointed. Yes. But I don't even know.
Just shock.
Just shock. Yeah.
Zen, what'd you think?
Let me ask y'all a question real quick before I get into my thoughts on it. There was a part when Daemon met with Blood and Cheese, right? And he asked him, what if we can't find Aemon? What did he say? Do y'all remember what Daemon said after that? Or did he even give an answer?
I think it cut. They don't show what he said.
They showed his face and he made a smirk, and then it goes to the next scene. It was a lot of.
I think he was like, just get whoever you can.
Okay.
I mean, I don't know. That's not like a book thing. Like they don't, specify that or anything. But like we talked about, it feels like Daemon, again, dog trapped in the garage. Like he needs to get out. He needs to do something. So he's like, they're like, what if we can't find him? He's like, just get anyone. Fuck it. You know what I mean? Like, Rhaenyra ain't here. She ain't gonna know.
Hold on, I'm real quick. Amber's with me. Shout out to Amber, and we watched it together, right? She was just like, wait, what if when that scene happened and Daemon said, and we didn't know what Daemon said, what if he purposely told him to go to that scene, like go there instead, like basically switch the whole plan up. I don't need Daemon, go over there.
Honestly, that's a great shout out, Amber, because that's really great. Because think about like the strategicness of it. You get Aegon in a place of not thinking, of making drastic. Again, the same thing that we were praising Rhaenyra for, not jumping the gun and acting on impulse. That is 100% what Aegon will. I don't want to get it. Would do.
Daemon. Right, what Daemon would say.
What Aegon would do. I'm saying he will act on impulse. Like his son is killed, he's not gonna wait and think about it. Which that could totally be a strategic move by Daemon. That's freaking great. That's freaking great.
You smoke that.
Say air horns in the chat for Amber for sure. Zen, what were your thoughts on this whole shocking piece of media that we got?
Man, even though I knew what was gonna happen in a sense, I didn't think they was gonna go through with it for some reason. Like I don't know, I felt like they were just going through. They were kind of going in the rooms, and I'm like, they're probably gonna. Maybe it's a mistake. Maybe it's an accident. Maybe they're not really gonna do what we think they're gonna do. And then they get to the room, and things happen, and then she runs out the room, but you hear the knife cut, and I'm like, oh no.
That's the part that got me. It's like they not only did they go there, but they really went that extra mile with the sound effects, and they didn't have to go that far with it, but they really wanted that to stick with you for sure.
I think that's almost worse than if they even try to show it,
because they needed the head off.
Yeah. And they just let your imagination run, and I'm like, nah, bro, this is not the vibes. Like this
that's
is
a
not
great
good,
point,
man.
Zen. Yeah, I've always been a person. I always think that like the imagination's always scarier than what you can be shown, right? So like the sounds and all, like just imagining is, like you said, even worse. But like I like you said, I knew it was gonna happen, But part of me again was like, will they go there though? It honestly reminds me of Infinity War, like when Infinity War came out with the snap, right? It's like I knew as a comic reader that was coming, but I was like, will they really go there though? Will they really kill off half of our people? And they did, and House of Dragon again did not disappoint. They went there, and then they went extra with it too. And I mean, again, this is going to be what everyone's talking about from this episode for sure. And I just think such an iconic scene from the books. Again, like I just said, even if you haven't read the books, I'm sure if you have been like looking up stuff about Game of Thrones, you've come across Blood and Cheese. It's kind of a more popular event from this war. But I think, again, the way that they executed it was just so well done. It really just amplified that tension. And something I wanted to point out from the books that's a little differently that I thought was interesting, and I think kind of goes into how we're talk about, Helene is kind of weird, if she, whether she's a dreamer or a green sea or something like that. But in the book, and I could be remembering this a little wrong, but the kids are not sleeping. Like the Blood and Cheese come in the room and they grab the kids, and Helena is just kind of standing there, and they make her choose between the kids. And so she picks one, and then they kill the other one. And the other kid watches this all go down. And so like that, I forget which kid is which, but then they like have a beef with Helene like for the rest of their lives after that, because they're like, you chose me to be killed, right? So like it was messed up in the show, but it's like even more messed up in the books, right? Like, yeah, it's like even more messed up. So like, yeah, so I thought it was interesting how they played, again, her choice. Like in both scenarios, she has a choice, but in this, she kind of instinctually makes it, where in the books, she tries to deceive them. And like I said, they kill the other one. They're like, oh, fuck you. So again, super interesting. I'm really interested to see where they take Helena, because obviously we know what happens to her in the book, but we know from House of the Dragon that things don't happen the way that history says that it happens all the time, and things happen differently. So again, I'm interested to see where Helena is going to go after this, what this death of the sun is going to do, and what role she could play, especially with, like we talked about, these visions, all that kind of stuff. I can't wait. But I mean, again, I can't believe they went there. I was shocked, even though I knew it was coming. But that really brings us to the end of this episode. It really just kind of leaves us off on this massive, I don't even really want to say cliffhanger, because we know what's coming. War, all out war, bloody, awful war. But before we get into the kind of little slides that we see for next week and the rest of the season, I want to ask you guys. So we are all Team Black here. We chose our sides on our recap, and I thought it would be fun because who knows what's going to happen this season. Things change episode by episode. So I want to get your guys' thoughts after this first episode. You guys still Team Black? Did anything in this episode sway you to Team Green?
How could they do that?
Exactly. I'm with you guys too.
Rhaenyra's gonna have to do something real bad. Look, Daemon is worse, really, and we still accept him. So
I was gonna say, so after what Daemon did, we're still Team Black over here.
Alice is too mean about it, man. If she wasn't like she just come off like such a hater sometimes. I'm like, oh, it's a little more than it need to be. Remember,
especially
also,
in this,
I rewatched I'm sorry, I was about to say since I rewatched the last season, I saw recently the episode when I'm sorry, I'm trying to be quick. When Rhaenyra offers their kids to like
the marriage.
Yeah, because she's trying her best, even though it's political. She was, you saw on her face, she was like, "Come on, I'm trying, y'all. Like, let's really do it." And Allison was like, "Rhaenyra, if you don't sit your ass, girl, like, it's just such a hater energy when she responds to stuff." So I'm like, "Yeah, nah, man, nah, I'm Team Black, Team Black."
Yeah, and especially this episode too, we see, which I was just like, I hate you. Which shout out to the actress who plays Allison, because again, that's like testament to how good she is. If I can feel so strongly about her character, but in this episode, when they're talking about Lucerys, his death. And she's like, well, he did cut his eye, right? You know, like justifying it. I'm like, are you serious right now? Like, they were like 10 years old, and you're gonna justify him being eaten alive by his dragon by that? Like, come on now. Like, I was just like, that's total like soccer mom. She like, let me see your manager. Like, you
And
know, like,
it's
oh, like,
funny,
well,
like,
he did cut his eye.
right? Like, I feel like I feel like she might also feel conflicted in a sense. Like, that was a thing that she did to maybe convince herself, so she doesn't feel any guilt about it. Because, like, do you remember the scene when they kind of have Lucerys' funeral? It kind of juxtaposition with her like praying with the candles, and at the end of when she's praying, she says a prayer for Lucerys. So
I
it's
thought
like,
that was interesting too.
yeah, so like maybe I don't know, maybe she does feel conflicted about that, but she's trying to, just front like to keep her from, because she can't feel no sympathy for the other side, because like they in war right now, you know what I mean? Like even when Aemon was saying like, yo, she feels sympathy, she's weak, but like she can't play that, you know what I mean? So
which that brings up another point that I want to ask, just this very, very quickly before we get out of here. But Aemon in this episode, we talked about everyone, and I mean, he definitely is playing another game in this whole thing. And I mean, to me, it seems like Aemon's out for himself. Like, he's like, y'all can do whatever y'all like. I'm doing this because my brother's the king. That's what I'm supposed to do. And, you know, y'all are just focusing on bullshit. He even says what we talked about in the last episode. He says the war of ravens and envoys and shit. Like, he's like, I'm sick of this shit. And it seems like he is, like we talked about wild cards. He is a wild card for sure. And so, what do you guys think about Aemon in this episode? Are you guys feeling anything from him? Like a bigger role that he may fill coming in this season?
Yeah, you know stuff. I don't know what you're doing.
Hey, I could be setting you up for a little question. I don't know. Maybe
I will say, even without that though, it's something happening, right? It's like if you're watching the show, it's clear something's happening with him that's going to lead to something else. I'm just not sure which way it's going to go, but I'm interested though. Every time he's on the scene, he comes into play. I'm like, all right, like what does he have in mind? And you can see Kristen Cole. Listen, he took his night gear off just to talk to him. I'm like, oh, he's locked in. So I'm like, okay, he's gonna be a big player, and he gives me Daemon energy. But like,
bro, I like his energy, man. Like even when he came in the when they had the meeting in the council room, he just walks in that joint, and they like, oh yeah, you don't got no seat on the council. He like, yeah, I'm like, nah, my brother told me to pull up. Yeah, and he walks over to the map and start moving dots and stuff. He's like, "Oh no, I got a."
He's like, "Oh, we need to go through the Riverlands and blah 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 blah."
He's like, "Boy, nobody asked you about any of this," but he's like, "No, I know it's my eye. I know he has the vision. He has the vision."
You know, while we're all Team Black here, you know for sure, you can't deny Aemon's got the sauce. Aemon's got that sauce for sure, and I mean,
he got the aura.
Yes, exactly, and I think Otto says it perfectly. He really is kind of the powerhouse of the realm right now. Not only does he have the biggest dragon, but he is one of the best sword fighters in the realm right now. Basically.
I agree with the statement. He said he's the biggest threat. He might, with him in the dragon, he might be right. Like
that's right. And then, again, talking about
energy, but a little more like I'm gonna not be as impulsive as you.
Exactly. And that's like we talked about him being a wild card. That like wild card, I'm talking like fuck either side. You know, like I'm on my own side. I'm on the Aemon Council, right? So I think it's super interesting how they're playing him and how they're kind of setting him up, especially in just this first episode for sure. And I mean, again, just what an episode, my dudes. This was such a great way to open us into this season. I think it really set the tone of what we're going to be seeing this season. And so, similarly to where you guys have sides, again, things are going to change episode by episode. People are going to die. Trust are going to be broken. Things are going to get so crazy. So I wanted to ask you guys as well, who do you guys think won this episode? I think the answer is pretty clear, but I think that this is a question that will get a little diluted as we go on. So while this is kind of a clear one this episode, I think it's going to get interesting as we move on. But again, who do you guys think won this episode, this round, if you would, of the Greens versus Black? Caesar, I'll throw it off to you first.
I'll make it even, I guess, a little interesting. In my opinion, until that last scene, the Greens were winning.
Yeah.
Technically, right? I mean, blacks only got that head up because they just did that. So before that last 10 minutes, it would have been Greens. So I guess technically blacks, but
they inched it out in the last the fourth quarter.
Right. It was a buzzer beater. Kind of like it's up to how you look at it a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with you 100% on that. Like they had it for the first half of the episode until Daemon do an audible and was like, "Nah, we gotta sun for a sun. You know what I mean? Like we gotta green light." So yeah,
made it better and worse.
Yeah, literally. I mean, like we said, I think you guys hit it on the head. The Greens are definitely in the lead when we start this. I mean, we kind of, like you said, Caesar, in the beginning of this, the kind of energy that we see from Dragonstone then to King's Landing, like they're kind of chilling over in King's Landing. So, the blacks really etched out the advantage at the end here. But again, things are going to change. We see in even the preview. So that brings us to the end of this episode, but we are treated to a little bit of previews to come for this season. And I mean, it's madness. Fire, no pun intended, fire and blood, baby. That's what we're in for this season, and I can't wait. So before we adjourn this meeting, my dudes, I want to ask you guys, do you guys have a theory, something that you really want to see next episode, like something maybe you want to see resolved this next episode? What? Give me something crazy. What do you guys got? Zen, I'll throw it off to you first, my man.
Okay. All right. Yeah, no. From that little the clip that we got about, what's coming this season, it was one shot of Aegon and he's visibly distraught. And I got a feeling that we're going to see that next episode. I feel like once he finds out what happened to his son, he's going to be super turned up. And I'm kind of excited to see this side of him because this episode, I feel like we got to see a more lighthearted side, a more he wants to be the good guy. He wants to be the good king type vibe. You know what I mean? Next episode, totally opposite. I feel like we're going to get an angry Aegon. We're going to get an impulsive Aegon, like you were saying, Thor. Like, we're going to get they really about to turn it up. So I'm excited. I am excited to see how he deals with this and how this is going to affect the war,
Caesar, what about you? You got anything?
Can't beat that one. I will say this, though. This is one of those shows for me that I love so much, and the writing and the way they do the show is so good that I don't want to know. I don't want to have a prediction. I love coming in every Sunday and being like,
where are we at this week?
What's up? Literally next scene. Where are we now? What are we doing? Like, so yeah, man, I'm no prediction. Besides, I know Rhaenyra about to wear Daemon out next episode.
What she find out? What happened?
Angry mom, angry mother. It's about to be bad.
Say he might be going back to King's Landing because she about to kick his ass out.
She might kick him out. She might.
I'm on Damon's side though. You said go. You told me, you gave me the green light.
Yeah.
You can't tell me what happened after you.
That green light was too green.
Yeah. He said that was too fucking
curry.
I mean, I think it was just Daemon he's like, we need to respond, right? Like in his mind, it didn't matter. If it obviously it would have been nice if it was Aemon, but he's just like, we have to respond in some form or fashion. So like we talked about, who knows what he said, but I'm almost positive he was like, just kill anyone. Just if they got white hair, kill them. Like that's basically what he said. But that is gonna be all that we have for you guys this week. This again, first episode of House of the Dragon, and it is just so nice to be back in Westeros. And we are gonna be with you guys throughout this entire season, going through all the nitty-gritty details. And before we get out of here, I gotta say thank you all for watching and listening. Please consider giving us a like and subscribe. It really helps us out. And also be sure to check out Agents of Fandom on all of our socials, TikTok, Twitter, anywhere that you get your news, you can find us. And that is Council adjourned. We will see you guys all next time.